Well, good day to you. It is 3/24/21, and I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. Hopefully you're finding joy in your life, and you found something to laugh about today. And even if it's something where you're listening to this video and you happen to hear one of my god-awful dad jokes that I insert into these videos from time to time, and you laugh just a little bit, well then shoot. If that happened, I know I personally would be completely happy about putting this video up today. And on the other side of the coin, if after hearing me talk about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, their priorities, why they're returning now to the everyday world, and what does it mean, and so forth, you end up turning the video off and thinking I'm the biggest moron on YouTube and end up laughing at me personally, well then shoot, you found something to laugh about today too. And, I guess I'd have to be happy about that too. I can't lose either way. But anyway, no, I kid. But there's a reason why I'm bringing up joy, for several reasons. One, I really do sincerely wish you joy, even if you disagree with what I talk about. But also, hopefully you'll listen to this video all the way through, because at the end of this video, I read an article by one of these masters about the joy of living. And it's about the joy of living because it's entitled The Joy of Living. But no, he talks about joy is our natural state. And he talks about why we're not living more joyful lives and how to live a more joyful life. And if you listen to it with a semi-open mind, you can listen to it without having to change your own religious or spiritual beliefs. And perhaps it can help. I don't know, or not, you know what I mean? But the other reason why I'm bringing up joy is I think the reason why most of us, if not all of us, are not real joyful creatures, it's because of what's going on in the world today. And so many people over the years have said something kind of like this, right? An injustice to one somewhere is an injustice to everyone everywhere, right? Something like that. And when we look at the hunger situation, which is Maitreya's biggest priority is, of course, peace. Right? But it starts with the principle of sharing. And the principle of sharing would eventually eradicate hunger, which will bring about justice, which will eventually bring about peace. But the thing of it is I don't think we really realize how much hunger is affecting all of us. Even if we are getting food on our table and we have enough to eat every single day, how hunger is affecting us. Because it causes stress in all our lives. It causes divisions. It causes injustice, even, like I said. And there was a poet some time ago. He was a Spanish poet named Federico Lorca. And there was a poem that he wrote entitled The Greatest Spiritual Explosion. And he talks about the ending of hunger causing the greatest spiritual explosion of joy in everyone's life. And I say this to say, you might have heard these videos before. You might be listening to these videos for the first time. But I hope, and my fondest hope for all of us, is we can put aside our differences in religious and spiritual perceptions and stand together to help eradicate hunger. Because it will bring about joy in everyone's lives. Yours, mine. And so it from my perspective, it does not matter what you believe. I know it's very hard for people who hear these videos, me talk about the return of the teacher, and their view of the teacher is somewhat different, and therefore it's a problem for them, for me to even say these things and so forth. But from my perspective, my fondest hope is that we eventually put aside these differences and stand together for peace. And the joy that will happen in all our lives as a result of it, I can't imagine. Now, I talk about, in most videos, and I kind of give an introduction to the return of the teacher and what does it mean and that kind of thing. But I wanted to just today read something that Maitreya said back in 1978. And this was through Benjamin Creme. There was a time for a few years where Maitreya was giving messages through Benjamin Creme at the talks of Benjamin Creme at Friend's House, Houston Road, London. And they were recorded, and I'm reading it from a book. But I think this really, in a lot of ways, says very simply, but in a greater and more effective way than I could say it. But this is coming from Maitreya. He says, "Perhaps you are surprised by the fact of my early return. But men and women weep, children die, and others laugh in blind forgetfulness. My coming is not by chance, but by law and love. That law and that love have brought me here. When you see me, you will see a friend and brother, and shall know my coming has not been in vain." So, the couple things I want to talk about here. One, when I talk about finding something to laugh about, I'm not referring to blind forgetfulness. He's talking about the complacency of humanity, right? And how complacency is really the root cause of the injustices in the world, especially hunger, because we are living in a world where there's plenty of food. It just needs to be shipped overseas to other areas that need it and so forth. Now, upon hearing this, when it comes to the principle of sharing, the only thing that's going to bring about peace is when nations learn to share with other nations. So as wonderful as it is for individuals to find the need to give to others, whether it's somebody that's homeless or somebody that's hungry, or giving it to an organization that might help people around the world or so forth, or even giving it to a family member or whatever, right? That's wonderful, but that in and of itself isn't going to bring about peace. It's going to be nations giving it to other nations first, and then eventually it will trickle down to where we all feel the need to share, whether it's financially or even just our own talents, giving it to the world to help the world and so forth. But the other thing I want to say too is when he says, "My coming is not by chance, but by law and love," there is a tremendous misunderstanding amongst the religious folks, especially the Christians, that the Christ can just return at a whim. The Christ has always lived within the laws of life, the law of cause and effect, the law of free will. And he does not impose on our free will at all. And that's the reason why Maitreya has continued to present himself on TV as an ordinary person. So he can get this message out just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit, and not infringe on our free will. But the reason why he's returning is the law and the love as well. And the other thing too is, the religious folks who hear this message, of course, are quite turned off about me talking about the return of the teacher. They call him the Antichrist and all sorts of vile names and so forth. He really is nothing but just a friend and a brother. And I'm not peddling anything. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. It really is just to inform you that what I think is true is that the teacher is here. But really, I only view him as a friend and a brother. I don't view him as the Christ per se, or the Imam Mahdi, or any of these man-made terms. I just view him as a friend. And that's why so many times I just say the teacher says this, the teacher's priorities are that humanity must create peace, because he's really just a teacher, a brother, and a friend. And by whatever name he's using on TV now, for the time that he's presenting himself as an ordinary person, he really is just still presenting himself as a friend, I'm saying, as a teacher, right? So hopefully that helps. All right, now I do have some questions to cover in this video before I read the article Joy in Living. And if you have a question or two about what we talk about here, simply post your question as a comment, and I will do my best to answer it in the next video. All right, so this one's kind of a different question, but I actually kind of thought it rather intriguing. He said, would you ever debate an anti-Maitreya conspiracy theorist? For example, would you ever debate Adam Green or Constance Coombe? I don't know who Adam Green is. I do know who Constance Coombe is because I read her books, but I put in there, I wrote back to him, I commented back, I said, yes, I would even debate Putin. What I also said was, if you pay attention to world politics, you'd get this joke. But Putin, or actually President Biden, accused Putin of being a killer. And in a rather, I think, kind of interesting response, which I've never heard a world leader doing this before. This is rather interesting. Putin challenged Biden to a debate. And the right and the right-wing political pundits and the left-wing political pundits have all had their say on this. But so I'm going to throw my little 2 cents in there. I think it's really actually a great idea, for world leaders to debate, each other about their views. I think it's really kind of cool, and hopefully in the future they'll actually look at it as a possible way of resolving some of our political disputes. I don't know, something to think about. Will it ever happen? Probably not. Now, Robert, this is for you. I would probably not be one to go on his Twitter channel and request a debate on his channel, but if they came to me, I mean, it's not that I'm being petty. It's just, it would be kind of an infringement of their free will for me to go on their channel and just to try to debate them. I don't go on other people's YouTube channels and comment and tell them how wrong they are about this, that, and the other, or request a debate. They would have to come to me. Now, if this Adam Green or even Constance Coombe, which I don't think she ever would, but if they ever did come to, on this channel or email me and say, would you ever come on our channel and talk? Then sure, I would love to. And I try not to debate per se, in the traditional sense, even though Constance Coombe is a lawyer, right? I'm sure she'd try to debate me, but I try not to argue with people. I just try to speak the truth as I see it, From my perspective, what I'm saying is true. Now, my perspective and what I talk about Maitreya and the return of the teacher, it might not be 100% accurate. Okay, so I'm not claiming to be speaking 100% truth. I do, in my heart of heart, know that the teacher is already here based on my own personal experiences. And when I talk about my experiences, I'm telling you the truth. You know what I mean? But my take on this information, it might look differently in the end. So I'm not claiming truth. So I try not to argue with people, especially if somebody is strongly against what I talk about. I don't, call them all sorts of names and stuff. It's just not my style. But personally, like again, it's not my style to go on somebody else's YouTube channel or Twitter and challenge them to a debate. You know what I mean? But if they ever came to me and wanted to talk, even if it was on their turf, I'd be more than happy to do it. You know what I mean? So anyway, hopefully that helps. Now the next question. Yeah, it's a question. Is coming from Jupiter Lounge. Another great name. You guys all have great YouTube names. A lot better than Search for Signs. Great radio voice. Oh, well, thank you. Ever find it weird how all religions think their dude is coming back? What if they all came back but switched roles? XD. Okay. First thing, you said great radio voice. Somebody else said I was unintelligible. Not too long ago, somebody says, always appreciate your honesty. And then someone else put, you're so full of skubalon, which is Greek for shit, right? You could also say mierda or Scheiße, I guess. That's German for the same word. I don't speak Greek personally. So it's amazing how I have such different views from different people. So which is it? No, I'm just kidding. Like I said, I'm just speaking the truth as I see it. And if you think it's, what's that Greek word again? Let me scroll back down. Skubalon. Okay. If you think it's skubalon or if you appreciate my honesty, that's your decision to make, right? So let's see. I don't think it's weird at all. And let me tell you why. Okay. Now, you might have been joking with this question. That's fine because it seemed kind of like a sarcastic kind of question. And that's cool. I can take sarcasm. I speak sarcasm too. I don't speak Greek, but I speak sarcasm. The reason why it seems weird that all religions are waiting for their dude to come back and wish they'd switch roles is it's actually the same person, but it's all humanity's misunderstanding of their own scriptures. That's why when we see Maitreya out in the world, known for who he is especially, and the Christians run up to him, are you the Christ come back? He's going to probably say something like this, where he's going to say, well, that's what they expect me to come back as. right? Are you the Imam Mahdi if they're Muslim? Well, if I'm the Imam Mahdi for you, what about the Messiah for the Jews? He's never really, I think, going to really claim the name Christ or Imam Mahdi as that's who I am. Maybe he will, but it's going to be more of those are the names that I'm referred to as, is the way that he sees it, because that's the truth of the matter. These are just man-made terms. And so when people perhaps don't understand, or they are confused about how the teacher could be coming back for not only the Muslims as the Imam Mahdi, but he could also be coming back as the Kalki avatar for the Hindus or so forth, or the Christ for the Christians, or the world teacher for those of no faith. It really is humanity's misunderstanding of the teacher. And if you look historically, especially because I'm coming from a Christian background, the time that Jesus lived, they had the same problem, right? And the teacher did not come back in the way that they were expecting. Now, Jesus is different than Maitreya. He's a different person than Maitreya, right? Jesus was a disciple who lived 2,000 years ago and taught the people of the time. But Maitreya was already a master, and he was working through Jesus the same way that these masters worked through a lot of very, very advanced disciples like Benjamin Creme, Alice Bailey, Mozart, Rembrandt, Leonardo da Vinci, Muhammad, the Buddha, and those are just some examples of very, very, very advanced disciples when these masters work directly through them and give a teaching or a political idea or art or a painting or music through that disciple in the same way. But Jesus was teaching at a very basic level, the laws of life, the law of cause and effect. I personally don't think that Jesus ever made a claim that he was the only true Son of God. I think historically, if you look at it, all that happened centuries after Jesus passed away. And, the decision, it was a conscious decision to make Jesus the only true Son of God so that they could reign in power over the people. The church could, right? And it worked. In fact, it worked so well that one of these masters, the master Joao Kuhl, wrote through Alice Bailey, he said it was the greatest triumph for the forces of evil was the monopolization of spirituality and religion. So, but I don't think Jesus ever did that. I don't think the Buddha ever did that. So I don't think Gautama Buddha was walking around thinking he was the only true Son of God either. It was all put there by man. And so when we have a hard time or thinking that they're switching roles. They're not switching any roles. It's just the Muslims are reading the Quran about the Imam Mahdi coming back. Those are just symbols, just like John wrote in Revelation. It's just they're different symbols. The teacher comes back to fulfill the law, but he's also coming back, as Maitreya said in the message that I just wrote, because of his love of humanity. He made a promise to come back. But he's coming back not as a religious or spiritual teacher per se, but as a spiritual teacher in the broadest sense. So not just a religious spiritual, you know what I mean? He's going to come back and teach us how to live, how to build structures, how to build the political structures so that they fulfill the needs of all the people, how to change our economic structures from the capitalistic view that it is today to a more humane way of fulfilling the needs of all the people. So when all these people on YouTube talk about socialism bringing about is an evil, it's going to bring about hyperinflation or whatever it happens to be, that's just all fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And there's no truth to it. There's enough resources for all of us to live, right? But it will change. We will have to change our mode and our way of living. So we can't have this extreme wealth in order to solve, we have to give up some of that extreme wealth. Nations will have to give up their extreme wealth to some degree. Individuals might have to some degree, but that's not going to be forced on them. It's going to be something that they're going to probably have to do themselves, right? But to change the way that we live so that we all can live, so that we can have the ending of hunger in our lifetime. So hopefully that helps. Now, as promised, I want to read this article, The Joy of Living, by Benjamin Creme's master. Again, it's far better to read it yourself. I'm only reading it because I know that most of us don't have this book, and hopefully it will inspire some of us to go out and seek out these articles, either through the Share International webpage, which is in the link is in the description, or actually buying the book on Amazon or something like that. Because when you read these articles for yourself, you can internalize the words yourself, and it means more than just hearing it from somebody like me who, as this person wrote, is unintelligible. So, couldn't agree more with you, sir, or ma'am. I don't want to assume gender. Anyway, each winter, the sun sets earlier and earlier until on the shortest day we see it, if at all, for but a few brief hours. Such is the reality of our planetary life. However, experience has taught us that without fail, the days will gradually lengthen, and the blossoms of spring and the warmth of summer will return once more, bringing us renewed hope and joy in living. When one considers this, when one sees how inevitable is change, one sees also how unnecessary is despair. Despair strikes at the heart of truth, for truth is that nothing remains the same forever, not even the darkest seeming fate. Since this is so, what is to be gained by fruitless despair? Better it is by far, when the blows of karma seem difficult to bear, to await calmly the appointed hour of change, in the sure knowledge that it will come. True joy in living can be ours only when we learn to accept with equanimity the blows and the gifts of life. Such a one is a disciple. Such a one knows that naught in the universe stands still. All is in movement, constantly changing and assuming new forms. Consider then how vain it is to expect the present to persist. This insight engenders freedom. From that freedom spontaneously arises joy. Joy must be understood to be the natural state, underlying happiness and sorrow alike. When uncovered, it radiates its light, the light of the soul, on all around, and makes manifest the love which is the nature of God. Love and joy coexist in the heart which is pure, unclouded by fear, hate, or the anguish of despair. Remove fear from your heart and know joy. Release yourselves from hate and know the meaning of love. Cast from your dark despair and stand in your true light. Thus can you enter the kingdom of souls and become a savior of the world. Many approach the future with fear, knowing little of the glory which awaits them. For them naught beckons but bleak destruction. Show them that the future of man will be wonderful to behold, holding as it does the promise of revealed divinity. Trust is not easily engendered, but the light of joy will prove the best ambassador. Teach the young to express the joy which is their birthright, and place not upon tender hearts the weight of guilt and fear. Thus will be born a generation of joyous servers of the race. Take us, your elder brothers, as your example. The radiance of our joy is our hallmark. Emulate us. Spread abroad joy's light. Conquer fear and uphold the hope of others. Fear and joy are equally infectious. Demonstrate love and joy and close firmly forever the door upon despair. Do this, and you will aid mankind more than you could know. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.